So the wife is down in Farmtown running errands and picking me up some parts and get my nitrous bottle filled and stuff. So I'm waiting on that. So I think what we'll do is start on the fan swap. They're not that much deeper, honestly. So we're going to these Mishimoto high velocity fans. Getting away from these slim lines so these don't move enough air to keep the motor cool. And we'll control these off of the ECU instead of using the, that thing right there with the probe in it. Thermostat, yeah, fan controller, that thing. That's what we're doing. Okay, so these are both supposed to be 12-inch fans. These 212s from Flexolite, the slim lines. And these Mishimoto 12-inch heavy-duty ones. Well, we can see that ain't quite the case. Looks like the Mishimotos are about 13 inches if the Flexolites are 12. Anyway, looks like I'm going to pull the throttle body just to get this thing down into the engine compartment. So I'll do that and come back. Alrighty, so it fits. It's tight. I got to pull the throttle body off of it to get it installed, which I didn't have to do before. I had to hog out these bottom holes. I'll show you what we got going on the radiator itself here in a minute. And pull out the stud that I had on there. Otherwise, there wasn't enough room between here and the water pump to actually get it to slide over the studs on the radiator for the mounting. So the studs themselves aren't long enough. So what I did was I got couplers and a piece of all thread to extend it. And that worked with the old fans, but with the new ones, I had to pull the thread out of this one on both sides to get it to actually fit in here physically. So I can take the fan out without fighting with the radiator and the water pump and all that good stuff. So I blue Loctited the couplers on, snugged them down. Now I can slide the whole unit on here and then just slide the stud in like that. And with the washers and everything, it'll hold just fine. So what we got to do now, while I was at it, I took the grinder to the top of the radiator where the hose comes in, right here. Yes, it's wood. It's cheap, it's what I had. I got to cut out all this here because these fans are bigger, even though they're supposed to be the same size, which it's good. And then remount this dude, repaint it. We'll throw it back on there. We'll dump that, Flexolite relay, actually wire in a 40/60 amp relay, and we will negative trigger it off of the MS3, which will be cool. Alrighty, they're in. I'm just waiting for the Loctite I put on the coupler down here. I'll let that set overnight. Then thread in the piece of all thread and tighten this thing down good. And we just got to finish our wiring. We'll put in our 40 amp relay over here, get rid of this thing, and trigger it off of the MS3. Okay, so I'm still waiting on fuel fittings. Should be here from FedEx tonight. I had them overnighted to get the fuel side of the nitrous system finished. I need to wire in the electrical and the new Mishimoto fans we put in. Both are going to take high amperage relays. I am already maxed out on the existing fuse block and relay box I put in. This one's been modified for negative triggers internally. I did a video on how to do that probably 2 years ago. It's in the playlist somewhere. You can see it if you want to do it. But I'm maxed out here, and I need to run the bigger relay for the fans anyway, the 40/60 amp. So let's go over that real quick. So the voltage is the same. For those of you guys that don't know this stuff, difference between voltage and amps, like there's a difference between can and may, shall, should, kill, murder, etc. and so forth. So voltage, I would call, if you're dealing with an air compressor, the pressure. And then the amperage would be your volume, your CFM. So just because I can run, you notice there's two different gauge wires on this. Black and green are one larger gauge, that's your high amperage side, but the same voltage. And then you got your smaller gauge wires here that you run the same voltage on, but less amperage. So just because I can run 12 volts through this, don't mean I can run 40 amps through it, but I could on this. Okay, so we're gonna go through hooking this up. This is your standard style, it's a 5-pin relay. They're only using 4 pins on it. So what we've got here in the MS3 manual, my wifey printed off for me, is how to do relays. It's pretty simple, honestly. So you got your always hot that goes to one side of your relay for the actual switching part. You're just passing the hot leg through the high amperage side of the relay. Then you trigger it with the low amperage, same voltage side, say off of a key switch, or if it's going through your ECU, like here, it would internally ground it and complete the circuit. Hang on. Always bad timing. And then your MS3 would internally ground it to complete the circuit and engage this relay for your injectors. So the high amperage side is going to be your 30 and your 87. So you just pass the hot leg of whatever you're trying to feed, like the injectors or perhaps the fuel pumps, because they're going to pull a lot more amperage than your injectors are. See if I can get this pigtail off here without ripping it out. Hang on. So there's your pins. You can see they're marked. The high amperage side is going to be the 30 and the 87. You're not using the 87A. Then to trigger that, for that relay to close, you'd put your low voltage stuff on the 85 and the 86. Yes. So your hot would come in on the 85 from like your switch. And then if you're going to a ground, or perhaps you're going through another switch and it's triggered off the ground, so your switch would go in here. You just run the negative leg through it. And then when it goes closed, it gives you your ground, which would then close this and give you your high amperage to, say, your fuel pump or your electric fans and so on. Hopefully that makes sense. It makes sense once you get in there and start doing it. This is why you keep notes, so you can remember what you used when everything's all wrapped up in this little conduit. So as I used up the different pins on the MS3, I marked them. So I've still got 3 high current outputs on the white connector that have been shortened and left here in the loom with a shrink wrap over them. So I can dig 2 of them out, probably 1 and 2, and then I'll use their negative triggers. I'll use 1 for the nitrous solenoids and 1 for the fans, and we'll wire up 2 separate relays. I've already got my always hot wire for the fans right here, and it's already run through a high amperage fuse, so we should be good there. This is a 10 gauge THHN. And we'll always have to wire up the nitrous stuff. And then on the ECU, what you can do, which I've probably already gone over, but there's fan control built into the MS3. And for the fan control, and the manual doesn't tell you where it is, but it's in basic load settings. Then you'd go to fan control. Fan control on. If you've got a IAC motor, you can do this here. Program it to idle up when the fan kicks on. Then you just pick your output you want to use. So you could use high output 1, high output 2, or high output 3. And this like that. On temperature, off temperature. Allow fan when engine off. I'll leave that on. TPS shut off enable. So if you're wide open, you can turn the fan off. You can also enable VSS, which we don't have yet, but I think I'm going to put on here eventually for the boost control, so we can do speed-based boost control. And then for your fans, or excuse me, the nitrous, I'm just going to do a simple on-off. I can go into programmable on-off outputs 1, enable one of these here, 1, 2, or 3, and then set up your active value, your power on value. Then you can do, for example, I'm pretty sure I've already gone over this. We wouldn't do RPM. We go here and we go to TPS, which is down there towards the bottom. And then your threshold, say like above 85%. So TPS would have to be greater than 85%. And then add an additional condition. We want it to kick off at say 15 pounds or whatever. So here we do map less than whatever that is in kPa added to the math. It's about 6.9 kPa for pound of boost, if I remember correctly. So anyway, that's what you can do for your outputs on your MS3 to control your relays for your fan and your nitrous. Morning. Fans are in. They've been in for a while. I just haven't had time to do anything. Worked good. At idle, they bring the temperature down quick. At highway speeds, it's what I was kind of afraid of. The shroud, combined with the fan still running, actually blocks airflow through the radiator. So once we get the vehicle speed sensor installed, we'll probably program the MS3, the Ultimate, to turn off the fan, say above 40 mile an hour. Let's see if that helps. He's running hotter than I'd like for a pump gas vehicle with 22 pounds of boost. So we'll see if that helps. Anyway, we got the MS3 hooked up. Show you real quick again where to go to do the programming for your fan. No idle air control motor on this. When the fans kick in, it bogs a little bit. Should kick in any second. Oh, no, they're not, because we're down to 150. Okay, so you go to your basic load settings for your fan control. It's right here. We're running right at 160 right now. Let's put this down to 166. That's correct. Yeah, you think? Fans came on. That's it. That's simple, man. Hopefully you guys are having a good weekend. I'll talk to you later.